Super excited to be here. Mike told us a lot about what we are building impact to make your life easier and scale influencers. And super excited to have on stage two phenomenal influencers and two of the best brands I've ever met know what they're doing. And so really excited to share that with you. So why don't we start with intros again?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Hege. I lead influencer and consumer marketing at StitchFix. I built out the program there and with the team have grown it to what it is today over the past few years.
I'm Jessica, Neistadt, and I'm a YouTuber and content creator, and I cover lifestyle, fashion, and girl boss female empowerment.
I'm Cassidy Cook. I'm an Instagram influencer, and I work with brands in like the fitness and fashion industry, and I've been doing it for about a year now.
I'm Megan Crow. I work at Purple, and I manage our brand ambassador, influencer, and social. We do a lot at our team. So, and I have been there for about a year, but it's been really exciting because the company is only 3 years old, so we're doing a lot in our 3 years. So,
excellent. Thank you for the intro. So, I was thinking we start with Jessica and Cassidy. Why don't you give us an idea of what an influencer does? Right? You know, we heard so much about what brands are doing to, scale influencers, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What's an influencer do?
So I create content to bring value to people, to inspire or share tips, advice, experiences. And for my particular case, I do it to genuinely just help people and bring value to people. And just, I don't know, that's what I do. Day to day, I would say that I spend, if I'm working on a project, I probably spend 3 to 4 hours filming at home, and then if I'm shooting somewhere on location with my husband, we'll probably spend 6 to 8 hours filming. And then for editing, if it's just purely an editing day, I'll be in my pajamas editing for a good 12 to 16 hours. Sometimes if it's a really big project, or if I'm working with like VFX for my husband or animation, sometimes I can spend like 3 or 4 days working on a project.
Yeah, and for me, I work with particular brands and companies and help promote them through Instagram by posting, a permanent post or Instagram stories with a swipe up link or like a discount code to help track the analytics. And the work that's put into it is, I'm not just posting a picture, it didn't just come up. You have to, get the product, create the content. So you want to be creative, you want it to look organic and natural, and then coming up with a caption and coordinating with the brand to make sure that it's on par with what they want to relay to their audience. So I'd say between 5 to 10 hours it takes for each post, coordinating, taking the pictures, editing it, coming up with the caption, and then from there it's engaging with the audience. Like, you can't just post it and be done. People are gonna leave questions in the comments or in your DMs, and to really help portray what the brand does and what they have to offer, you have to be able to be there to answer those questions to your followers and your audience.
And in your case, are you working with the same brand for a long period of time? Is it a one-time engagement? What are the dynamics that you're seeing there?
So I do mostly long-term partnerships with brands, like usually quarterly contracts, just because I believe in quality over quantity. I don't want to flood my newsfeed with a bunch of random products that I may not necessarily actually use in my day-to-day life. So most of the brands I work with are products that I've tried out or I was customers for before I became an influencer. And then from there, I just try to develop a relationship with the brand and with the person that I'm coordinating with, so that there's a trust created between myself and the brand and myself and my followers.
Oh, for me? I'm sorry, what was the question again? I was really into what she was saying.
Do you work with brands on a long-term engagement and partnerships, short-term, a mix?
I would say it's a mix. Sometimes a company wants to kind of just test out things, so they'll reach out for a one-off project is what they call it. And sometimes it's just me feeling out the brand or the brand feeling out me, and we're trying to see if it's a good fit. But I would say about half-half. I really like doing long-term partnerships for maybe 3 to 6 months. I think it really gives my audience a good sense of like brand loyalty to this. Like, this is a product I actually like. This is a product I believe in, or a company I believe in. So for them, having that long-term partnership, I think, is much more beneficial because it does create that brand awareness and loyalty between me and my audience.
Excellent. And so, Hege and Megan, you have very successful programs. You work with many of the Cassidy and the Jessicas. How do you run the program? How do you think through all the complexity and the layering that Mike was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, at StitchFix, we have a pretty extensive influencer program set up. We have our kind of base program on impact and as a good grounding, and then we work with influencers through the commissions and through kind of partnerships in that sense, but also do campaigns, we do events, we have a closed Facebook group where we kind of have our whole community so they can learn from each other and interact with us. And then we have email newsletters and various resources to kind of help them. If we help them kind of grow their audience, that helps us in the end as well if they share about StitchFix. So that's something that we focused on for a long time to make sure that it's a true partnership and that we're invested in their growth and they're invested in ours. I think in terms of like how we set it up, this industry is ever evolving and ever changing, and so we're trying to kind of stay along with the trends, and we are in very close communication with our influencers to see what are you focused on currently, what are some things that you're missing, how would you like to work with us, how is your kind of world evolving. Some of the influencers we have in our program were starting out just when we were starting out as a brand, and so we've kind of grown together over the years, and it's been really fun to see how they have turned their business into a full-blown business as well, and now we're kind of collaborating as companies versus influencer and brand. So it's been really fun to see.
Yeah, so getting into, I guess, the brass tacks of our team, it's me purely. Like, we still run a pretty small team, but that is how I rely on all of these kind of partners to really help me be able to utilize and do it to the full extent that we do. We run our influencer program with many different kinds of tiers because, similar to what you're saying, that we always are testing and trying new things. We love to do the 3-month partnerships because that's really effective for us, especially with our product being a high-end mattress. It's not something like you're just going in and buying every day, and it's very unique and very personal, whether you like a mattress or not. So we really like to let people try out the mattress and bring their followers along, showing what it was like, their experience on Purple. From there, we also work with our existing customers and try to bring in some of them as brand ambassadors, and that's been really effective really in the nano space. It almost gets into word-of-mouth marketing, referral marketing. It's just a really different way to approach it, so that's been effective for us. Or we use influencers purely as content creators, and that's also been doing well for us. And then getting into the affiliate and revenue side of things, we can also tap into their audiences. So we've done a lot of different ways of just trying to test out and see what's the most effective. So yeah, we're just a little bit behind StitchFix, and then we're only 3 years old, we'll be up there too.
On the way.
Yeah.
And so, so going back to Hege, you know, you've been doing for a while. With influencer, there is often like, what's the value, right? And Mike covered it from a revenue standpoint. How do you measure that? I know you have multiple ways of measuring it. How do you measure it? And within your organization, how do you champion that so that you can take the long-term approach?
I mean, as StitchFix, we're a very data-driven company, and so we measure very heavily on kind of the tactical measurement pieces, but I think more importantly, we do think of it as a long-term strategy, and so it's more important to find those win-win relationships with the influencer where it's an authentic fit for them, they're really into the product, really into the service, and kind of use it in their daily life and can speak to it in an authentic way, and we see that too, like you were saying with the long-term partnerships, is that it feels then more genuine, and we can see that in the numbers as well. Like, the more somebody talks about something, the more genuine it seems, and the more kind of trust they get from their audience. So we definitely see that in the metrics as well. I think in terms of proving it internally, like, I've been lucky to have management that really believe in influencing and kind of have seen the effects of that themselves. So it's been a good thing to have in the back as we've built out the program. But I think continue to test and always have a learning agenda of kind of what are you trying to figure out? Are you trying to see if this is an influencer that's going to perform on an affiliate basis, or is this more of a content play? So I think always kind of thinking what's the goal and then measure accordingly, because you can't measure all partnerships in the same way as you would with brand or acquisition.
Yeah, very similar. We're always running different tests to see really what's the most effective way for us to do campaigns. So we ran a test in Q1 purely for content, and so I wasn't even as worried about the influencers' audience. I was really just wanting to get content from them. So we were able to get content that we were able to repurpose that's done really well in our Pinterest ads, so that's been going really well for us. We also did a small test with getting into their ad account access on their Facebook or Instagram account, and so we're able to whitelist, and that was the most effective for us. We were able to compare it against our ROAS with our other traditional performance marketing, and that was the first time where I really got to get the buy-in from the rest of the team, because I also was fortunate to have management that really was excited and on board with influencer marketing, but bringing the rest of the team along can sometimes be tricky. So trying out these smaller tests is really how I've been able to prove out that this is working. And then we can move them into affiliate space. We did one test I was thinking of when you were talking was we did a test to figure out what's the best kind of audience for our influencers. And so we tested with an interior design, which makes sense with mattresses. We tested with a working mom, which historically our brand hadn't worked with a lot in that space yet. And the last one we worked with was bride, because for us, you buy a new mattress when you're at those new points in your life, new marriage. And so we ran a test while doing ad account access on each of them to see which performed well. And we were all pretty shocked. I wish I could show you the pictures, because you can look at the content pictures, and if you just purely looked at the content and the prettiest photo, you would guess which would do best. But the one that went way beyond our dreams was the working mom angle, and it was because she engaged so well, just like you were talking about. She engaged with her audience, she came back to them. They really trusted her, even though she didn't necessarily have 400,000 followers. She was like a really great partner for us. So we were able to take that. She had a good angle about being, sort of the girl boss mentality, and seeing that it wasn't just focusing on interior design, which then led us to creators like Jess that we knew lined up and overlapped with all of those audiences. So being able to find those audiences that are surprising us, we can really tap into them and then find more creators that match with that similar audience.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that we learned early on at StitchFix as well. You would assume, because we're a fashion company, that fashion bloggers would be kind of where we would go. But we quickly noticed that as we were testing into other niches, we saw a lot of success in food and lifestyle and fitness and different categories that you wouldn't necessarily expect would line up with fashion. But when you think about it more as a lifestyle company and a lifestyle service, then it kind of starts lining up more.
Yeah, totally. We did a few with some skateboarders and gamers on YouTube that have like 9 to 10 million followers, and it was great because they talked about how when you're an athlete and working hard every day and throwing yourself off of dirt bikes and stuff, you need a good place to sleep. And so it was really effective for us. They even took their old mattresses and then literally were doing ramps off of them on their dirt bikes and stuff. So it was fun. They got to see them tear up their old mattress, and then they got to sleep on their new one. So it was good.
That's awesome.
And so, back on the influencer angle, what are the brands you work with measuring you on? I reach out, I have a campaign, I have a brief. What are you seeing? Are they looking at your content? Are you looking at the revenue? What do you feel like you're being measured on?
So I find that brands definitely, of course, want to see the analytics, the hard analytics. So if I post an Instagram story, they want to see what the engagements were, how many people swiped up, how many people exited, how many people clicked on their profile. And then for the YouTube side, sometimes they'll want to see certain screenshots. Sometimes they want access to the actual analytics, such as Purple did. And I think that's really valuable to see those hard analytics. But then sometimes, I think just seeing the engagements, the comments that people will send over, I'll send copies of like comments like, oh my gosh, I really love this video. That's so cool that you got to work with this brand. I've been checking them out for a while, but knowing that you recommended them, like that really like pushed me to, you know, look further into them or purchase this thing. So I also like sending over those engagements because I think sometimes the hard analytics don't show those extra things. It doesn't show beyond, you know, like, oh yeah, this person clicked it, but you know, people don't always buy right away. People don't always like, oh, I'm gonna go directly from this link, put it in my cart, buy it right then. I think it all goes back to that, creating that authentic relationship and finding someone who like really aligns because, for example, there's this influencer that I follow, and a while back I was watching one of her videos. She recommended like this, I don't know, like bronzing lotion. I don't know, it looked kind of cool. And then I checked out the link, but I didn't buy it right then. And then, I don't know, 3 weeks later I was at Target and I saw that thing and I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. So I threw it in because of her recommendation. So I think some things you can't really get hard analytics for. So I think it's just finding that fit and then pairing it with those hard analytics.
Yeah, and I think back to your previous point, that's a really good way to show internally too how influencer marketing is actually working. So if you can get to that win-win relationship where if it's a true authentic match and something they really care about, you'll also see that in the comments because they can speak to it in a completely different way, having the experience of kind of using the service and knowing all the ins and outs. And so showing those comments and showing the engagement of somebody saying, oh, I've been wanting to try it, but I've been hesitant, now I'm gonna give it a try. Those are really powerful to share internally as well.
Yeah, similarly, when I make a post, I use like the built-in analytics that Instagram has. So it'll show you your impressions, how many accounts you reached, how much traffic you drove to a certain page or whatever you tagged in. And so that's a good way to measure it, as well as Impact's platform, where it'll show you the actual like revenue, who bought, who did an email sign up, leads like that. And so to me, like, you can measure it in two ways: brand awareness, so how much traffic you're driving to the brand's page through your post. Maybe they aren't customers right away, but they did, you know, clicked on your Instagram and followed you, and now they're a fan and they are aware of your product. And then there's the revenue, how many people actually, you know, swipe up, sign up for the service, and purchase something. So there's several different ways to measure it. And much to what she says, like, DMs and comments are a great way to see how your audience is liking the product. That they get a little bit more personal or more in detail there. It's not just a number, like in data or analytics, it's an actual testimony.
Yeah, when we're doing that, if we see an influencer post is really taking off in the comments and their audience is really engaging, we'll then have our social care team hop on and I'll send them the link to that, and then they can start, because again, there's a lot of questions about mattresses. There's lots of different kinds you can have, so they will have lots of questions about it. You know, does it ship right to my door? Like all those things. And so then our team can also hop in and help the influencer. So that's one way we provide value to the influencers, is they like that they don't have to be an expert on purple. Like, we'll back them up. We'll be there to help them. We'll provide answers when we can. They just have to tag us and we'll jump in. The other thing we've done, like, I've actually had sometimes issues getting an influencer on board with doing affiliate marketing because they don't understand it. This is new to the crossover. So I will set them up in Impact with the 0% commission. I just track it. Now I have this traffic to either show them or to prove out to other influencers that, hey, we worked with a YouTuber and they got this much traffic. If this had been like a commission, think about what you could have gotten off of it. And so that's been really effective for us to sort of prove out the education value both internally and to like the influencers, so they would want to sign up for and understand why it's so important to be on commission.
That's a really good point. One of the most common topics and questions we get is that education, right? Is we're reaching out to a new type of audience. The audience itself, influencers, are not as familiar with all the mechanism to monetize.
Yeah.
So how do we work with them? So those are some great examples. What about you, Hege? You have a community. What are the steps that you take to make sure that they know how to work with you?
Yeah, we have a portal set up where we have a lot of step-by-step guides, and figure that we do a lot of kind of screenshots and step-by-step and carefully kind of explain like how to use the platform and how to get the right links. We also use the sub ID feature to kind of create links for people who are not on Impact. and kind of trying to do the same thing of convincing them and seeing like, here's the tracking of your post, here's how it performed. And we often get that from influencers who operate only on Instagram who are not as familiar with impact or affiliate in general. They'll ask us like, how are my posts performing? Like, are they selling? And so they have a level of interest there. And so I think if you tap into that and kind of guide them through the process and show them how they can benefit from it. We also have a lot of influencers who get fixes ongoing, and we might work with them like kind of from time to time on special campaigns, but if they get a fix and they really love it and they want to share about it in between, then the impact links are a great way for them to earn a little bit extra commission. And so we found a lot of success with that. And then in the Facebook group, we also have a lot of kind of quick little hits, quick little tips that come in. If there's anything new that's released on impact, we'll share that in the Facebook group and show them kind of how to navigate through it.
How did you learn? Like, you were an influencer. How did you get exposed to brands and to partnerships and all the different subtleties of commissions, flat rates? How was that process?
So it's really interesting because there's no really, I guess now there's kind of more, there's no industry standard when it comes to influencer marketing. And if you're an influencer, you kind of, it's really trial and error. Oftentimes you'll get like, I don't know, taken advantage of, or like you just don't know. Like some people don't even know they can reach out to a brand and be like, hey, would you want to work together? I know this girl who has over 1 million followers and she had no idea she could reach out to brands. So it's all just kind of like a trial and error. It's like learning how to negotiate. You teach yourself. For me, it was really interesting because it was like, I knew people could do like dedicated videos or like just purely about a brand because I had seen it myself. But once I started getting more into being, I guess, an influencer, I realized that there was so much more out there. I saw people who were doing like integrations where it would only take up like a minute or two. And then I saw like people would do posts with swipe up links in their Instagram stories. So it was all kind of just like seeing it myself and then kind of just like playing around and like figuring out negotiating. And now having a manager, it's kind of easier because he's just like, oh, Jessica, like this is the way you do it. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So it's really interesting to be an influencer because like nobody knows anything and a lot of people, a lot of influencers are very like secret. Nobody wants to share like, I don't know, the actual information. So you kind of just have to figure it out on your own until you find someone who's willing to share information, which is why I always try to be like pretty straight up with people and just share things because people want to know and helps other people to help people.
Yeah, and for me, Instagram has always been, and social media in general, has always just been like an outlet for me to use for fun and as a hobby. And so I didn't create my Instagram with the intention of becoming an influencer. Yeah. But I competed in the 2016 Olympics for diving, and that's kind of what like kick-started this like influencer career, because after and during the Olympics, certain brands would reach out to me and say, hey, I would love to send you a product if you would, you know, make a post about it or like post a tweet and such and such. And at the time, I was bound by NCAA regulations, so I wasn't able to accept any free product or payment or endorse any products because I was an amateur athlete. But once I graduated from Stanford, I started to take advantage of the companies that had reached out to me. So I made sure to reply to them back in 2016 and say, I'm currently an NCAA athlete. I cannot accept these sponsorships, but as soon as I graduate, I would love to, you know, continue this conversation. And so I didn't just ignore them. I kept in touch with them to build those relationships. And then when I was released from those regulations, I started to talk with the brands and come up with a plan. But like she said, there's no industry standard. It just kind of, every company does it differently. Yeah. And so that's the awesome part of being an influencer. You have the freedom to create your own content and use your creativity and work with brands and negotiate. And so it's been a really cool opportunity that just kind of, you know, fell into the right place for me.
That's so cool.
No, that's excellent. And I just saw one interesting question coming from the audience, which we have some more to go, but that's an interesting one. Like Mike was covering the catfishing. It's kind of like related, unrelated, but someone from the audience was asking about FTC regulations and how do we make sure that we are brand safe and we're doing the right things in social media. What are you doing? What are you doing for that? How do you monitor You make sure that, you're not a public company, so it's higher scrutiny. So what are you doing for that?
Yeah, we actually work very closely with our legal team as we kind of have grown our influencer program and as the FTC have kind of structured the guidelines more clearly over the past few years. We worked with our legal team to create some more step-by-step guides and kind of like explained what it is, how it works, where to kind of stay updated on the latest details, and then we give guidance kind of on an ongoing basis into our program. And then, of course, when we do sponsored campaigns, we do kind of check for that before the posts go live to make sure you have the right FTC disclosure, it's at the right place of the post, and all of those things.
Yeah, same. I've been doing this long enough that I remember when you didn't have to do the FTC. But all of our posts come in to be approved first, because besides just making sure we're disclosing that it's partnership, we also need to make sure they're talking about our brand correctly and using the right verbiage that we want them to. So that's really important to us. I also have told influencers to take things down before if they didn't do it right, and they thought that the paid partnership would, sync up properly when they marked it on Instagram, and it didn't. I've had them take it down and make sure they redo it. So sometimes that's why building that trust is so important, because it's someone who's going to do it right. Otherwise, you do feel like you have to babysit them and watch the post as soon as it goes live, where once you know that they're a partner that you can rely on, then you know that they got it, and you're not as worried that that's going to be an issue. But we also stay in touch very closely with our legal team, and we're always doing updated seminars on whatever's going on. So it's something we're very much aware of, and I don't think it's really an issue, though. I don't know how you feel. I feel like influencers are all pretty
Yeah, most people are pretty up to date.
Yeah.
And I think the education is really helpful for people who are kind of just starting out in the influencer space and maybe are kind of on that journey of growing their audience and starting to do some promoted posts and starting to work with brands. I think they are the ones that have the most value of those step-by-step guides and kind of trusting our guidance in that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We've also had issues where we need to, not issues, that sounds bad, but we've had times where we need to educate the influencer on how to integrate that it's a sponsored post or something in a more authentic voice. So sometimes, they'll, put hashtag ad 5 times in caps locks first because they're just scared and they want to make sure they're doing it right. And so helping them understand what the guidelines are, how to fit it a little more authentically into their caption is also really important as we're working with them. So it's another reason why we always vet their posts before they go live.
You get asked all the time, making sure that FTC disclosures are, you check the box? How do you make sure you're doing the right things?
Usually in the brand guidelines they send over, here's the messaging, here are the key points they're looking for, and then it's just hey, make sure that you use clear language, this is sponsored, I have partnered with, and they always try to be really clear and concise. So I will just go by that and make sure I hit those marks, because obviously they're working with a legal team. They know exactly what to put, and I always just include it in my videos when I have a brand partnership. Usually I'll include a visual thing. If someone were to not have audio, maybe they wouldn't know it was sponsored. So I'll put up a little video this was sponsored by, and then I make sure to say it really clearly. So that way there's no confusion, there's no sort of shadiness going on, and people know that, hey, I'm transparent about this. I'm not trying to be oh, they gave me this thing. And I just try to be transparent.
Yeah, definitely. For each company that I've worked with, they do send you a contract with, what you should put, what hashtags to use. So with StitchFix, it's hashtag StitchFix, hashtag StitchFix influencer. A little bit of a hard thing to get out there, but also as Instagram has evolved into a business platform, I think they've seen, it started out as a social media, you post your pictures, but then they saw the capabilities of it becoming a really useful business tool for companies. They've implemented different features within Instagram that help make it easier. So if you're doing a post, it'll say, is this a sponsored post, or do you have a partnership with anybody? So you click up there and you type in the name of the company. And so then you don't even have to worry about adding it yourself. It'll say at the top, paid sponsorship with whatever company that you typed in. So as Instagram keeps evolving and implementing those business features, it's going to become easier for the influencer and the companies to make sure that they're following the FTC guidelines.
So as you're stressing Instagram becoming a business for influencers. Like, we'll come back to a question from the audience. We have Instagrammer, we got a YouTuber. How you, again, Megan, think about all the social media channels? Like, do you focus on YouTube? I mean, there's so much, right? There's Pinterest that I've honestly not heard much lately about. Like, how do you spend your time or allocate? Like, are you looking for influencers that are on all of them, or maybe multi-presence? Like, how do you make that call right now?
Yeah, I mean, we work with influencers across all niches, across all sizes. So people who have a few thousand followers, all up to a few million followers. And some have all on YouTube, some have all on Instagram, some have spread across the channels. And I think for us, like, we are looking for that diversification to make sure that we have people represented on the different channels, on the different platforms. It's similar like you would do with paid ads and kind of like your media plan strategy. I think we think about it in a similar way with influencers. Like, for example, you guys who have their voice on YouTube and Instagram, like, you have that authentic voice on that platform, and that's kind of where your followers will listen to you, and so that's where we want to work with you.
Yeah, I would say similarly. I was just actually exploring TikTok because I just want to get on there first. If there are influencers on there, and there are, it's usually just a cross-platform to test out. But I'm always looking for the new thing. We've done a few tests with Twitch. I'm excited to try some more with them. YouTube for us tends to have the longest shelf life, so we do really like YouTubers. So it's great to work with YouTubers, and then the really great creators like Jess also have a following somewhere else. So she just, it wasn't even in her contract. She just posted on Instagram for us, giving a shout out to her YouTube video and telling people to check it out, which was really cool. So. Yeah, I would say we're also, the one I haven't really cracked for us is Twitter. It's not really been a platform, but our customers are on there a lot, so it's a great UGC platform for us, but it's not been where we've been at for our influencers. But yeah, otherwise we're all over the board. Pinterest, we also love to get anybody who has a good following. And on Pinterest, I make sure to ask them to pin it too, so yeah.
We've seen the same thing with, video has been a big thing for the past couple of years, but especially for StitchFix, that is a service that sometimes requires a little bit more kind of explanation of how it works and how it fits into your life. We've seen that video channels have performed really well. So YouTube, Instagram Stories, Facebook Live, anywhere where you can have a dialogue with your audience and kind of answer questions and talk about it and share how it really fits in with your everyday.
Yeah, absolutely. Our product similar needs a little bit of education for people to understand why the purple mattress is different, and so it's been really effective to use those storytellers and content creators who can do that in an effective way. And yeah, video or Instagram Stories is always really helpful for that.
And so a question for the audience is about, Instagram is testing hiding the likes. Do you think that will impact your business? Maybe Jess, you can speak to that. Do you think if likes disappear for Instagram, there will be a big hit for you, or not?
I don't know if it'll actually affect me that much, because I find that oftentimes it's like the engagement in the comments that really kind of shows how it does. And even if something gets a lot of likes, if the content is really good and it really connects with an audience, it doesn't matter, I think, if the likes are hidden or not, because the fact that it's like making an impact with the audience and connecting with the audience is, I think, the most important thing for brand recognition, brand loyalty, and.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like people will mindlessly go through Instagram and double tap, which is a like, and so that they don't really think twice about it. But when you are engaging in comments, you're thinking about it. You're thinking about the product. You're thinking about the influencer or the account that you're commenting on. And then I also find that Instagram Stories can be more successful than actual posts and likes, because they're going to be swiping through Instagram Stories, and it's easy access to get to the website with the swipe up links and the hashtags and the accounts that you tag. So the likes, it's hard to say whether or not it will affect. Especially, I don't know if they're going to take away likes altogether or only make the likes visible to the account owner. But yeah, no, that's definitely an interesting point to make.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. It would be similar to Instagram Stories, how that works now. Like, you can't see publicly how many views the story gets or how the engagement is, but obviously the influencer themselves have that data, and so they can share that directly with the brand.
Yeah, I think that just has to do with, I mean, this industry changes all the time. So it's just like we pivot and try something else. I previously did a lot of work in Facebook groups, and it was really effective for us, like how much we got to get organic reach on a Facebook group. And so, now like yours that you're running, like, and that was a whole new way of doing Facebook, and so I think it's just similar. I'm not too concerned about it. I don't think it's really gonna.
It seems like if you are really owning in that partnership aspect in the relationship, yeah, the medium may change a little bit. You kind of tweak and kind of move on, right? From that standpoint. So speaking of the partnership, a question for Jessica and Cassidy. It'd be great to give your perspective, and something we talked backstage about. How do you know you're working with a brand that knows their stuff, right? That you're like, hey, this is a good brand to work with. Like, what are the telltales that you can use almost right away?
One thing is that I can tell if a brand is good or if they're like experienced, or is just if they have, I guess, respect for like the influencer and their time and what they're creating. Because I've been reached out to before by brands, and they're like, hey, can you make me a dedicated video by, I don't know, a day or two from now? And then they don't understand, no, that's not possible because it takes so long to film, it takes long to edit. So I think when a brand is like aware of how long it takes something to edit, they're really respectful of like your voice with your audience. If they're like, yeah, of course, like you can, for example, it's like, I'm trying to put it into words, sorry guys. Basically, it's just like sometimes an influencer has a very specific way of talking to their audience and connecting with their audience that might be a little bit different from like the traditional like voice or the guidelines. But if you let that content creator speak to their audience how they know best how to, and that brand respects that, and they're like, yeah, like however you connect with your audience, do it, go for it. And they give me that like flexibility and that respect. I'm gonna wanna do like the most for them. I'm going to want to create extra content. Like Purple, you guys were so awesome to work with because you were so like, yeah, like whatever works with you and like whatever.
Yeah, we give like guardrails, but then
Yeah,
we know you're
definitely.
a content creator, like you're an expert, so we want you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just having that like respect and awareness and like that good relationship and the communication, just like let me know how it's going, let me know if there's anything you want me to fix. And I think those are all like huge signifiers on if a brand is good to work with. Yeah.
For me, like as an influencer, you have to research the brand that is reaching out to you. You don't want to just accept something because if it doesn't align with like your lifestyle or what your followers do. Like for example, I'm an athlete, so I want to work with brands that align with my goals of fitness or fashion. So I won't be working with other companies that are unrelated to that because I can't speak to those products as well as I can to ones that are related to my life. So do your research on the brand, and then also having a point of contact with them is really important. And when they're responsive and they give you individual attention, that really helps develop the relationship, and then it makes me all in on the partnership. So for example, with StitchFix, we coordinate back and forth. I'll send them like sample pictures, and they're really quick to respond, which is awesome because some other companies that I've worked with in the past, like for one-off situations, like you'll hear from them and then you'll respond and then you won't hear from them again for another 2 weeks. And so it's hard to create content for them when they're not really utilizing you. And so that with combination of giving the influencer creative control over the content they're creating is super important because you want it to fit the aesthetic of your page. And so if you're just posting something for a company and they told you exactly what to say, it's gonna be coming off like one of those ad commercials. Yeah. Like you wanna put your own twist on things. And so giving the influencer the freedom and creativity to put their own twists on things while also promoting the brand in the way that they want to is how you're working with a great brand.
So we have about a minute left. I wanted to just super quick, think about impact growth next year. What's super exciting over the next 12 months or 6 to 12 months for each of you in the influencer space?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to see just like how the influencer space continues to evolve and continues to change. Like I was mentioning earlier, there's some of the influencers that we worked with early on that are now full-on kind of companies in their own. And so thinking about how do we blend influencer and partnership and kind of different types of marketing. And then I'm interested to see how kind of influencers can can go beyond like social media and create products of their own. We're actually just launching today our first clothing collaboration with an influencer, Katie Storino, who's based here in New York, which we're really excited about, and it's our first size-inclusive, full clothing collection, and so new partnerships and new ways of working together, which I'm excited about.
Megan?
Yeah, I was going to say similar. I think this has been a theme in a lot of what have people been saying today, but there's a lot of education needs to go into it, and so I'm excited for the rest of our org to catch up and to understand and we'll show the value even more, but to be able to get to a place where in a year they're even more excited to see the overlap between affiliate and PR and influencer and partnerships. It all comes together, ambassadors, you put it all together. And so I'm excited to be able to put all of it together and have everyone see the effectiveness of it.
Yeah, as the influencer market grows, it'll be cool to see which companies start creating positions specifically for influencer marketing and how they'll utilize that. And so it'll be cool to see which brands that didn't do it before start to do it now and in the years to come. And then it would be really exciting to work with those brands and kind of see how we can help the company.
I'm really excited about how social media and just being able to connect with people on such a vast scale continues to grow. I love, again, bringing value to people and connecting with people. So just as social media grows and that there's more opportunities to reach more people than we ever have in history before, I think that's so amazing, because right now we're at such a unique point in time where someone you never would have been able to reach or make an impact on, you can now do that in just a couple seconds. You can post something and it can reach halfway across the world. And I think that's just super cool, and I'm very excited to see where that continues to go.
Excellent. And we're super excited to build the next wave of tools and the platform to help you both grow, right, on both sides of the marketplace. So it's super exciting. We're at the end. Thank you so much for your time. I truly enjoyed it. I knew it was going to be great. This is even better than I expected. So thank you so much. So for a round of applause.